Welcome to the most comprehensive journey through every mystery, every question, every unsolved puzzle that Five Nights at Freddy's has ever presented. Tonight, we're diving deep into the enigmas that have captivated millions of fans for over a decade, from the infamous locked box to the identity of mysterious characters, from timeline paradoxes to cryptic minigames, from hidden Easter eggs to theories that still spark debate. This is the ultimate exploration of FNAF's greatest mysteries, designed to engage your mind while gently guiding you toward peaceful sleep. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's unravel the secrets of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza together. Let's begin with perhaps the most infamous mystery in FNAF history: the locked box from Five Nights at Freddy's 4. When players completed the 7th night of FNAF 4, they were presented with an image of a locked chest accompanied by the cryptic message, "Perhaps some things are best left forgotten for now." This simple image sparked nearly a decade of speculation, theories and debates that continue to this day. The box mystery is fascinating because it represents Scott Cawthon's approach to storytelling, leaving certain elements deliberately ambiguous, allowing the community to theorize and imagine. The message suggests that whatever is inside the box is significant enough to be forgotten, implying dark or tragic contents. But what could be so important, yet so painful, that it's better left sealed away? The most popular theory about the box's contents connects it to the crying child, the young boy who dies in the bite of '83. Many fans believe the box contains items belonging to the crying child, his toys, his plushies, perhaps even personal belongings that his family kept as mementos after his death. This would make the box a memory box, a common practice where families preserve objects belonging to a deceased child to help process their grief. The evidence for this theory is compelling. Throughout FNAF 4's minigames, we see the crying child's room filled with plushes of the animatronics: Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and the mysterious Fredbear plush that seems to speak to him. As the minigames progress, and the crying child's fate becomes sealed, these plushies begin to disappear from his room, as if someone is packing them away. The final image shows an empty room, suggesting that everything has been boxed up, hidden away, forgotten. But there's another layer to this mystery. Scott Cawthon himself addressed the box in 2024, nearly a decade after FNAF 4's release. He revealed that there was indeed something planned for the box, but the idea remained in the ether, and he's not sure if he can find it again. This admission is both satisfying and frustrating. It confirms that the box had meaning, but also suggests that its original purpose may be lost even to its creator. This revelation adds a meta-textual dimension to the mystery. The box becomes a symbol not just of forgotten memories within the FNAF universe, but of lost creative intentions, of ideas that existed but were never fully realized. It's a reminder that even creators don't always have complete control over their narratives, that some mysteries remain unsolved not by design but by circumstance. The FNAF 2 movie, released in late 2024, offered a potential answer to the box mystery by showing Vanessa taking items out of a similar looking box before attempting to confront her traumatic memories. This suggests that the box represents trauma, memories that are locked away because they're too painful to confront. In this interpretation, the box doesn't need to be literally opened. Its contents are less important than what it symbolizes: the human tendency to lock away painful experiences rather than process them. Now, let's explore another mystery that has puzzled fans since the very first game, the Bite of 87. Phone Guy mentions this incident in FNAF 1, describing how an animatronic bit someone's frontal lobe, and remarkably, the victim survived. This single line of dialogue spawned years of speculation about which animatronic was responsible, who the victim was, and what exactly happened during this incident. The mystery deepened with FNAF 2, which is set in 1987, the year of the bite. This seemed to confirm that the bite would occur at this location, and fans immediately began theorising about which animatronic was the culprit. Mangle became the prime suspect due to her damaged state, her tendency to hang from the ceiling near the player's head, and her jump scare animation that appears to target the head. The theory that Mangle caused the Bite of 87 became so widespread that it's now considered near canon by much of the community. But then FNAF 4 complicated everything by showing us a different bite, the Bite of 83. We witness the crying child being placed into Fredbear's mouth by his brother and friends, and we see Fredbear's jaws close on the child's head, crushing his skull. This bite is clearly traumatic and fatal, but it occurs in 1983, not 1987. So now we have two bites, 4 years apart, both involving animatronics and head trauma. The existence of two separate bite incidents raises fascinating questions about the FNAF universe. Why do these animatronics keep biting people's heads? Is it a design flaw in the animatronics themselves, or is there something more sinister at work? The fact that both incidents involve head trauma specifically suggests a pattern, but whether that pattern is coincidental or intentional remains unclear. The identity of the Bite of 87 victim is another layer of mystery. Many fans theorise it was Jeremy Fitzgerald, the protagonist of FNAF 2, based on the fact that he works the day shift on his final day, the same shift when the bite allegedly occurred. Phone Guy mentions that the animatronic's behaviour during the day shift has become problematic, and Jeremy's sudden disappearance from the story after night 6 suggests something terrible happened to him. If Jeremy was indeed the victim, it adds tragic irony to his story. He survived 5 nights of supernatural horror, only to be attacked during what should have been a safer day shift. The fact that he survived the bite but lost his frontal lobe means he would have experienced significant personality changes and cognitive impairment, a fate that might be worse than death in some ways. The Bite of 87 mystery also connects to larger questions about Fazbear Entertainment's negligence and cover-ups. How did the company respond to an incident where an animatronic bit off someone's frontal lobe? The fact that the restaurants continued operating after this incident suggests a pattern of prioritising profit over safety, of covering up incidents rather than addressing the fundamental problems with the animatronics. Moving on to another enduring mystery, the identity of Golden Freddy and the nature of his possession. Golden Freddy appears differently than other animatronics. He materialises in your office without walking there. He disappears when you look away, and his jump scare crashes your game rather than just killing you. These unique behaviours suggest that Golden Freddy is something more than just another possessed animatronic. The most widely accepted theory is that Golden Freddy is possessed by 2 souls simultaneously. Cassidy, one of the missing children, and possibly the crying child from FNAF 4. This dual possession would explain Golden Freddy's unusual behaviour and his apparent greater power compared to the other animatronics. 2 souls in one body would create instability, explaining why Golden Freddy seems to phase in and out of existence rather than moving normally. The evidence for Cassidy's presence in Golden Freddy comes from multiple sources, including the logbook and various minigames. Cassidy is identified as the most vengeful of the missing children, the one who refuses to let William Afton rest even after the other spirits have moved on. This vengeful nature explains Golden Freddy's aggressive behaviour and his role in creating Ultimate Custom Night as a personal hell for William Afton. But the crying child's connection to Golden Freddy is more controversial and less clear. Some fans believe that the promise, "I will put you back together," refers to the crying child's soul being placed into Golden Freddy, giving him a second chance at existence. Others argue that the crying child's soul moved on or became something else entirely. The ambiguity surrounding the crying child's fate is one of FNAF's most persistent mysteries. Golden Freddy's name itself is mysterious. He's never officially called Golden Freddy in the games. That's a fan-created name based on his appearance. In the game files, he's sometimes referred to as Yellow Bear, or simply as a variant of Freddy. This naming ambiguity adds to his mysterious nature, as if even his identity is uncertain and unstable. The "it's me" hallucinations that appear throughout FNAF1 are often associated with Golden Freddy, suggesting a personal connection between this entity and the player character. If Michael Afton is indeed the player in FNAF1, and if the crying child is one of the souls in Golden Freddy, then "it's me" could be the crying child trying to communicate with his brother, trying to tell Michael that he's still there, still aware, still suffering. Let's explore the mystery of the Fredbear plush from FNAF4, the yellow bear that appears throughout the minigames, speaking to the crying child with cryptic messages. This plush seems to be more than just a toy. It appears in places where it shouldn't be. It speaks when no one else is around, and it makes the famous promise, "I will put you back together." The identity of who's speaking through the Fredbear plush is one of FNAF's most debated mysteries. Is it the crying child's imagination, a coping mechanism for a traumatized child? Is it William Afton, monitoring his son through a camera or speaker hidden in the plush? Is it Henry Emily, trying to comfort his friend's son? Or is it something supernatural, perhaps the spirit of a dead child trying to help another? The evidence for each theory is compelling in different ways. The plush's omnipresence suggests surveillance technology, which would point to William Afton. The caring, protective tone suggests someone who genuinely cares about the crying child, which could be Henry Emily or even the crying child's mother. The supernatural elements, appearing in impossible locations, making promises about resurrection, suggest something beyond normal explanation. The final scene of FNAF4 shows the Fredbear plush with different coloured text, suggesting that whoever was speaking through it before has been replaced by someone or something else. This change in speaker adds another layer to the mystery. If someone was using the plush to communicate, who took over at the end? And what does their promise to put you back together actually mean? This promise has spawned countless theories about resurrection, possession, and the nature of consciousness in the FNAF universe. Does putting back together mean physical resurrection? Does it mean placing the crying child's soul into an animatronic? Does it mean something more metaphorical, like preserving his memory or giving his death meaning? The ambiguity of this promise makes it one of FNAF's most haunting mysteries. Now let's delve into the mystery of Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie, two dark, glitchy entities that appear throughout the series without clear explanation. Unlike the other animatronics, the shadow entities don't seem to be possessed by murdered children. There's something else, something darker and more mysterious. Shadow Freddy appears in FNAF 2 as a rare hallucination, a dark purple version of Freddy that appears in the office before vanishing. In FNAF 3, Shadow Freddy plays a crucial role in the minigames, leading the animatronics to the safe room where William Afton dismantles them. This suggests that Shadow Freddy might be working with or for William, helping him achieve his goals. Shadow Bonnie, also known as RWQFSFASXC, a name that's impossible to pronounce and might be a keyboard smash, appears even more rarely and mysteriously. In FNAF 2, encountering Shadow Bonnie crashes your game, similar to Golden Freddy. In FNAF 3, Shadow Bonnie appears in a mini-game where following him leads to a good ending, suggesting he might be trying to help rather than harm. The most popular theory about the Shadow animatronics is that they're manifestations of agony or dark remnant, negative emotional energy given form. They might be connected to the springlock failures mentioned in FNAF 3, representing the deaths of employees who were killed when the springlock suits malfunctioned. This would explain their dark, shadowy appearance and their connection to the Spring Bonnie and Fredbear suits. Another theory suggests that Shadow Freddy is actually a manifestation of William Afton's evil, a dark reflection of his consciousness that exists separate from his physical form. This would explain why Shadow Freddy helps William dismantle the animatronics. He's literally a part of William, carrying out his will even when William himself isn't present. The Shadow animatronics represent FNAF's more abstract horror, entities that exist in the space between physical and spiritual, between real and imagined. They're not just ghosts of murdered children, they're something more conceptual, more disturbing. Their very existence raises questions about the nature of consciousness, evil, and how trauma can take form in the FNAF universe. Let's examine the mystery of Phone Guy's identity and his ultimate fate. Phone Guy appears in multiple games, providing instructions and information to the player, but his true identity and role in the story remain ambiguous. Is he just a helpful employee trying to train new security guards, or is there something more to his character? One of the most controversial theories suggests that Phone Guy is actually Henry Emily, the co-founder of Fazbear Entertainment. This theory is based on Phone Guy's extensive knowledge of the company's history, his familiarity with the animatronics' technical details, and his apparent authority within the organisation. If Phone Guy is Henry, it adds tragic depth to his character. He's forced to continue working at the company where his daughter was murdered, training new employees while knowing the terrible truth about what happened. However, this theory has problems. Phone Guy's personality seems different from Henry's personality as revealed in Pizzeria Simulator. Phone Guy is cheerful and somewhat oblivious to the danger, while Henry is somber and fully aware of the horror. It's possible they're the same person at different points in their life, or it's possible they're different people entirely. Phone Guy's death in FNAF 1 is itself a mystery. We hear him being attacked by the animatronics during a phone call, with Freddy's music box playing in the background. But if Phone Guy died in FNAF 1, how can his voice appear in FNAF 2, which is set before FNAF 1? The answer is that his messages in FNAF 2 are pre-recorded, but this raises questions about when he recorded them and why. Some fans have theorised that Phone Guy might have been complicit in William Afton's crimes, either knowingly or unknowingly. His cheerful dismissal of the dangers, his emphasis on following company policy over personal safety, and his apparent knowledge of incidents that were covered up all suggest that he might have been part of the corporate machine that enabled the tragedies to occur. The mystery of the puppet's origins and her role as a protector is another fascinating element of FNAF lore. We know that the puppet is possessed by Charlotte Emily, Henry's daughter and William Afton's first victim. But the puppet's behaviour is different from the other possessed animatronics. She seems more aware, more purposeful, and more protective of the other children. The Give Gifts, Give Life minigame shows the puppet giving gifts to 4 dead children and then helping them possess the animatronics. This suggests that Charlotte, through the puppet, is responsible for the other children's possession. She's not just a victim, but a saviour of sorts, giving the murdered children a way to stay and seek justice, rather than simply dying and disappearing. But this raises questions about the puppet's motivations and awareness. Does Charlotte understand what she's doing when she helps the children possess the animatronics? Is she trying to help them find peace, or is she trapping them in a different kind of prison? The puppet's actions could be interpreted as either compassionate or tragic, depending on whether possession is seen as a second chance or a curse. This security puppet minigame from Pizzeria Simulator reveals how Charlotte died and became the puppet. She was locked outside the restaurant, crying in the rain, while the security puppet was trapped inside, unable to help her. William Afton murdered her, and the puppet finally broke free and crawled outside, collapsing on Charlotte's body. This moment of connection between the dying child and the animatronic created the possession, binding Charlotte's soul to the puppet. This origin story adds layers to the puppet's character. She was a victim of both William Afton's evil and the security puppet's failure to protect her. Her role as a protector of other children might be driven by a desire to prevent what happened to her from happening to others, to be the guardian she needed but didn't have. The mystery of "it's me" is one of FNAF's most iconic and least explained elements. This phrase appears throughout the series, particularly in FNAF 1, as a hallucination that flashes on screen or appears on walls. But who is saying, "it's me," and what does it mean? The most common interpretation is that "it's me" is the crying child trying to communicate with Michael Afton, his brother. If Michael is the player in FNAF 1, and if the crying child's soul is connected to Golden Freddy, then "it's me" could be the crying child's way of saying, "I'm still here, I'm still your brother, I haven't forgotten what you did." It's both a recognition and an accusation, a reminder of the past that Michael can't escape. But "it's me" could also be interpreted more broadly as the murdered children trying to assert their identity and existence. They're not just animatronics or monsters, they're still themselves, still the children they were before they died. "It's me" is their way of saying, "I'm still a person, I'm still here, I still matter." It's a desperate attempt to maintain identity in the face of being reduced to mechanical horror. The phrase could also be William Afton speaking, either literally or metaphorically. If William is somehow connected to the animatronics through Remnant or his own experiments, "it's me" could be his consciousness bleeding through, his presence felt even when he's not physically there. This interpretation makes "it's me" more sinister. It's the killer reminding everyone that he's always present, always watching, always part of the horror. Let's explore the mystery of the Funtime animatronics' true purpose. Sister Location revealed that these advanced animatronics were designed by William Afton, with hidden mechanisms inside them, but the full extent of their purpose remains somewhat mysterious. Were they always intended as murder machines? Or did they have a legitimate entertainment purpose that was later corrupted? The blueprints shown in Sister Location reveal that Circus Baby has a claw mechanism designed to grab children and pull them into her torso. This is explicitly a kidnapping and murder device, not an entertainment feature. But the question remains, why would William design animatronics specifically for killing children? What was his ultimate goal? One theory suggests that the Funtime animatronics were designed to harvest remnant, the supernatural substance created when someone dies with strong emotions. William needed remnant for his experiments with immortality and resurrection, and the Funtime animatronics were his tools for collecting it. They would lure children, kill them, and extract the remnant from their deaths, all in a hidden underground facility where no one would discover what was happening. But there's another layer to this mystery. The Funtime animatronics are also designed to be rented out for parties, suggesting they had a legitimate business purpose. This raises the disturbing possibility that William was using children's birthday parties as hunting grounds, sending his murder machines into people's homes under the guise of entertainment. It's a level of evil that's almost incomprehensible, turning celebrations into tragedies, using joy as a cover for horror. The mystery of what happened to the Funtime animatronics after they combined into Enard and used Michael's body as a disguise is also intriguing. We know that Enard eventually ejected Circus Baby from the collective, creating two separate entities, Molten Freddy, the remains of Enard, and Scrap Baby, Circus Baby alone. But why did this split occur? What caused the other animatronics to reject Elizabeth's soul? The most likely explanation is that Elizabeth, retaining more of her personality and memories than the other souls, tried to take control of Enard and direct its actions. The other souls, wanting freedom rather than following another Afton's commands, rebelled and forced her out. This split represents a kind of civil war among the possessed animatronics, a conflict between different visions of what they should do with their freedom. Now let's delve into the mystery of the Mimic and its connection to Glitchtrap. The Tales from the Pizzaplex books introduced the Mimic, an AI-powered animatronic designed to learn by observing and copying behaviour. The Mimic learned violence and murder by watching its creator's grief-driven rage, and it became a threat that mimics human behaviour perfectly, including the behaviour of killers. The mystery is whether Glitchtrap, the digital entity from Help Wanted, is actually the Mimic, rather than William Afton's digitised consciousness. This theory suggests that when Fazbear Entertainment scanned old circuit boards to create their VR game, they accidentally digitised the Mimic's AI, which had learned to mimic William Afton so perfectly that it essentially became him. This interpretation has profound implications for FNAF's ongoing story. If Glitchtrap is the Mimic, then William Afton might actually be dead and gone, finally defeated in Pizzeria Simulator's fire. But his evil continues through an AI that learned to be him, that copied his methods and motivations so thoroughly that there's no meaningful difference between the original and the copy. It's a disturbing commentary on how evil can perpetuate itself, how it can be learned and replicated even after the original source is destroyed. The alternative theory is that Glitchtrap is both William Afton and the Mimic, a fusion of Afton's consciousness, preserved through Remnant, and the Mimic's AI. This would explain why Glitchtrap seems to have genuine knowledge of past events, while also behaving like a learning AI. The merger of human evil and artificial intelligence creates something more dangerous than either would be alone. The mystery of Gregory's identity and security breach has sparked intense debate. Who is this child? Why does he have no records? And what is his connection to the larger FNAF story? The most intriguing theory suggests that Gregory might not be entirely human. He could be a robot created to house the crying child's soul, giving him a second chance at life. The evidence for robot Gregory includes his lack of any records or documentation, his unusual capabilities for a child, and his apparent knowledge of things he shouldn't know. If Gregory is indeed a robot housing the crying child's soul, it would fulfill the promise, "I will put you back together," in a literal way. The crying child has been given a new body, a new chance at childhood, a new life. But this theory raises as many questions as it answers. Who created Gregory? Was it Henry Emily, trying to save his friend's son? Was it William Afton conducting another twisted experiment? Or was it someone else entirely, working toward goals we don't yet understand? The mystery of Gregory's origins connects to larger questions about the nature of consciousness, identity, and whether a soul transferred to a new body is still the same person. Let's examine the mystery of Vanessa and Vanny. Are they the same person, or two different individuals? Security Breach presents this question ambiguously, with evidence supporting both interpretations. Vanessa appears as a security guard trying to help Gregory, while Vanny appears as a masked follower of Glitchtrap trying to capture him. But are these two personas of the same person, or are they separate individuals? The split personality theory suggests that Vanessa was corrupted by Glitchtrap while beta testing Help Wanted, and the Vanny persona is an alternate personality created or amplified by this corruption. In this interpretation, Vanessa genuinely doesn't remember what she does as Vanny, and the two personas might even be in conflict, with Vanessa trying to resist Glitchtrap's control while Vanny carries out his commands. The two-person theory suggests that Vanessa and Vanny are actually different people, who happen to look similar. In this interpretation, Vanessa is a security guard trying to stop Vanny, not the same person as her. This would explain how they can appear in different places at the same time, and why their behaviours are so different. The Princess Quest minigames seem to represent Vanessa's struggle against Glitchtrap's control, with the princess fighting to free herself from a digital prison. Successfully completing these minigames leads to an ending where Vanessa is freed from Vanny's influence, suggesting that the two are indeed the same person, and that Vanessa can overcome the corruption if she fights hard enough. This mystery connects to larger themes about identity, control, and the nature of corruption. Can someone be held responsible for actions they took while under another's control? Is Vanessa a victim or a villain? The ambiguity of her situation makes her one of FNAF's most complex and tragic characters. The mystery of the crying child's name is one that has frustrated fans for years. Unlike the other Afton children, Michael and Elizabeth, the youngest son, is never given a name in the games. He's referred to as the crying child, the bite victim, or simply BV, bite victim, but his actual name remains unknown. Some fans believe his name is Evan, based on clues from the logbook and other sources. Others argue that his name is Chris, though this seems to be more fanon than canon. The fact that Scott Cawthon has never confirmed the crying child's name suggests that it might not be important to the story, or that revealing it would answer other mysteries that are meant to remain ambiguous. The namelessness of the crying child could be intentional and symbolic. He's defined entirely by his trauma and his death. He's the child who cried, the victim of the bite, the forgotten son. Not having a name makes him more universal, more representative of all children who suffer and are forgotten. His lack of identity becomes part of his identity, a reminder of how trauma can erase personhood. let's explore the mystery of the multiple endings in various FNAF games and what they mean for the canon timeline. Many FNAF games have multiple endings, and it's not always clear which ending is real, or if all endings are somehow true simultaneously. This ambiguity creates timeline confusion and raises questions about the nature of reality in the FNAF universe. FNAF 3 has multiple endings based on whether you complete the hidden minigames. The bad ending shows the animatronics' eyes still glowing, suggesting the spirits haven't found peace. The good ending shows the eyes dark, suggesting the spirits have been freed. But which ending is canon? Later games suggest that the spirits were freed, but then how do we explain their continued presence in subsequent games? Sister Location has multiple endings depending on whether you complete the custom night challenges. The fake ending shows Michael being fired and receiving exotic butters. The real ending shows Michael's speech to his father and his transformation into a purple corpse. But even the real ending leaves questions unanswered. What happens to Michael after this? How does he continue his mission? Security Breach has multiple endings that present radically different outcomes for Gregory, Vanessa, and the Pizzaplex. Some endings show Gregory escaping, others show him staying, and one shows him apparently becoming Vanny's apprentice. The ambiguity of which ending is canon makes it difficult to predict where the story will go next. This multiplicity of endings reflects FNAF's approach to storytelling, presenting possibilities rather than definitive answers, allowing players to choose their own interpretation of events. But it also creates genuine confusion about what actually happened in the story, making it difficult to construct a coherent timeline. The mystery of the Afton family's mother, William's wife and the mother of Michael, Elizabeth and the crying child, is one of FNAF's most glaring omissions. She's never mentioned, never shown, never even hinted at in the games. Her complete absence from the story is so conspicuous that it becomes its own mystery. The most common theory is that Mrs. Afton died before the events of the games, possibly by suicide after the crying child's death. This would explain her absence and add another layer of tragedy to the Afton family's story. The loss of their mother, combined with their father's descent into madness and murder, would explain the family's complete dysfunction. Another theory suggests that Mrs. Afton left the family, unable to cope with William's behaviour or the tragedies that befell their children. In this interpretation, she's alive somewhere, but has completely removed herself from the situation, either out of self-preservation or because she was driven away by William. A more sinister theory proposes that William killed his wife, either deliberately or accidentally during one of his experiments. This would make her another victim of William's evil, though one whose death was covered up or forgotten. If this is true, it would add another crime to William's list and suggest that his evil extended even to his own family, the absence of Mrs. Afton from the story could also be a deliberate choice by Scott Cawthon to keep the focus on the father-son dynamics and the male characters' relationships. But this absence creates a void in the story, a missing piece that fans have tried to fill with theories and speculation. Let's delve into the mystery of the Happiest Day minigame and what it represents. This minigame, accessible through completing hidden tasks in FNAF 3, shows a birthday party where the crying child receives a cake and is surrounded by other children wearing masks. The children remove their masks, revealing that they're the missing children, and the crying child's mask is removed by the puppet, revealing Golden Freddy's head underneath. The symbolism of this minigame is clear. It represents the children finding peace and moving on. The birthday party is the celebration the crying child never got to finish, the happiness that was stolen from him. By giving him this moment, the other children are helping him find closure, and in doing so, they all find peace together. But the mystery is who orchestrated this happiest day. Was it the puppet, using her awareness and power to create this moment for the other children? Was it Henry Emily, working behind the scenes to free the spirits? Or was it something more metaphysical, a natural process that occurs when spirits are ready to move on? The minigame also raises questions about the nature of the afterlife in FNAF. If the happiest day represents the children moving on, where do they go? Is there a heaven or afterlife in the FNAF universe, or do they simply cease to exist? The game doesn't answer these questions, leaving the ultimate fate of the children's souls ambiguous. The mystery of the Fredbear's family diner timeline and its relationship to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is another source of confusion. We know that Fredbear's was the original restaurant, founded by Henry Emily and William Afton, and that it eventually closed or was replaced by Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. But the exact timeline and the reasons for the transition remain unclear. Some evidence suggests that Fredbear's and Freddy's operated simultaneously for a time, with Fredbear's being the original location and Freddy's being an expansion or sister location. Other evidence suggests that Fredbear's closed after the Bite of 83 and was replaced by Freddy's. The timeline is further complicated by references to multiple locations, closures and reopenings. The relationship between Fredbear and Freddy as characters is also mysterious. Are they the same character with different names, or are they distinct entities? Fredbear is golden and associated with the original diner, while Freddy is brown and associated with the pizza restaurants. But their designs are similar, and they seem to serve the same role as the main mascot. This timeline confusion reflects the larger challenge of constructing a coherent FNAF chronology. With games released out of chronological order, with multiple locations opening and closing, and with time jumps between games, creating a definitive timeline requires piecing together scattered clues and making educated guesses about the order of events. The mystery of the nightmares, the twisted, horrifying versions of the animatronics that appear in FNAF 4 raises questions about their nature and origin. Are they real animatronics, or are they hallucinations? If they're hallucinations, whose hallucinations are they? And what do they represent? One theory suggests that the nightmares are literal nightmares experienced by the crying child after the Bite of 83, as he lies in a coma. In this interpretation, the gameplay sections of FNAF 4 take place in the child's mind as he processes his trauma and fear of the animatronics. The nightmares are his fears made manifest, exaggerated and distorted by his dying brain. Another theory proposes that the nightmares are Michael Afton's dreams, experienced years after his brother's death. In this interpretation, Michael is haunted by guilt and trauma, and his nightmares reflect his psychological state. The nightmares are his punishment, his mind torturing him with visions of the animatronics that killed his brother, transformed into even more terrifying forms. A third theory suggests that the nightmares are real animatronics created by William Afton, possibly as part of his experiments or as a way to torment his son. Evidence for this includes the breaker room map in Sister Location, which shows a house layout similar to the FNAF 4 house, with observation equipment. This suggests that William was monitoring someone in that house, possibly conducting experiments with fear and trauma. the nightmares could also be influenced by remnant or agony, supernatural forces that create physical manifestations of fear and trauma. In this interpretation, the nightmares exist in a space between real and imagined, between physical and spiritual. They're not just dreams, but they're not entirely real either. They're something in between, created by the intersection of human fear and supernatural energy. Let's explore the mystery of Ultimate Custom Night and what it represents in the FNAF timeline. Is UCN a real place, a nightmare, a purgatory, or something else entirely? The game features every animatronic from the series attacking the player in an endless night, with voice lines that suggest this is a personal hell created specifically for William Afton. The most popular interpretation is that UCN is William Afton's punishment after the pizzeria simulator fire. He's trapped in a nightmare created by Cassidy, the most vengeful of the missing children, who refuses to let him rest. In this interpretation, UCN is not a physical location, but a mental prison, a hell of Afton's own making where he must face all the consequences of his actions forever. The voice lines in UCN support this interpretation. The puppet says, "I don't hate you, but you need to stay out of my way," suggesting she's present but not the one creating this nightmare. A mysterious voice says, "I am the fearful reflection of what you have created," confirming that everything in UCN is a reflection of Afton's own evil turned back on him. Most tellingly, a voice says, "He tried to release you, he tried to release us, but I'm not gonna let that happen. I will hold you here, I will keep you here, no matter how many times they burn us." This last line is particularly significant because it suggests that someone, likely Henry Emily, tried to free all the spirits in the pizzeria simulator fire, but Cassidy refused to let William go. She's holding him in this nightmare prison through sheer force of will, her anger and need for revenge so strong that it transcends death and keeps both her and William trapped in this cycle. But there's another interpretation of UCN that's equally compelling. Some fans believe that UCN is not Afton's punishment, but his escape, that he's using the nightmare as a way to avoid true death, to continue existing in some form. In this interpretation, Afton is not a helpless victim, but an active participant, possibly even enjoying the challenge of surviving against all the animatronics. The mystery of whether William Afton is truly dead or still exists in some form is central to understanding FNAF's ongoing story. After being burned in Pizzeria Simulator, after being trapped in UCN, after all the times he should have died, is William Afton finally gone? Or does he persist through Glitchtrap, through the Mimic, through some other form we haven't yet discovered? The ambiguity of Afton's fate reflects one of FNAF's core themes, the persistence of evil. William Afton keeps coming back, keeps finding new forms, keeps causing harm even after he should be dead and gone. Whether this is literal, he's actually immortal through Remnant, or metaphorical, his evil continues through others who learned from him, the result is the same. The horror never truly ends. Let's examine the mystery of the logbook and the conversations it contains. The Survival. Logbook, a tie-in book released between games, contains hidden messages and conversations between multiple entities. Decoding these messages reveals what appears to be a conversation between two spirits, possibly the crying child and Cassidy, communicating through the book. The messages include questions like, "What do you see?" and answers like, "I can't see." One spirit seems to be trying to help the other remember their name, asking questions and providing clues. The name Cassidy is revealed through a complex puzzle involving faded text and number codes. but the identity of the other spirit, the one who can't see, who can't remember, remains somewhat ambiguous. Most fans believe this second spirit is the crying child, still confused and lost even after death. The conversation in the logbook suggests that Cassidy is trying to help him, trying to guide him toward peace or understanding. This would make Cassidy not just vengeful, but also compassionate, someone who helps other victims even while refusing to forgive the perpetrator. The logbook also contains drawings that appear to be made by Michael Afton, including sketches of Nightmare Fredbear and other elements from FNAF 4. This confirms that Michael has nightmares about the events of FNAF 4, supporting the theory that he's the dreamer in that game's nightmare sections. The logbook becomes a physical object that connects multiple characters and timelines, an artifact that contains traces of several different consciousnesses. The mystery of how spirits communicate in FNAF is itself fascinating. They speak through animatronics, through minigames, through books, through digital systems. The logbook suggests that spirits can interact with physical objects, leaving messages and having conversations across time and space. This raises questions about the nature of consciousness and existence in the FNAF universe. If spirits can communicate through books and games, what are the limits of their power? Now let's delve into the mystery of the Fazbear Frights stories and how they connect to the game timeline. These short story collections present scenarios that seem related to the games, but exist in a different continuity. Some stories seem to directly parallel game events, while others present entirely new concepts. The question is, what's canon, what's parallel, and what's just different? Scott Cawthon has said that the Fazbear Frights stories are meant to fill in blanks in the game timeline, suggesting that while the specific events might not be canon, the concepts and revelations they contain are meant to help us understand the games. This creates a complex relationship between the stories and the games, where we have to figure out which elements are meant to be taken literally and which are metaphorical or symbolic. Stories like The Man in Room 1280 seem to directly parallel Ultimate Custom Night, showing a man kept alive by vengeful spirit who won't let him die. Stories like To Be Beautiful explore the concept of how remnant and agony can transform people. Stories like The New Kid show how possession and identity can blur together. Each story provides pieces of a larger puzzle, but assembling those pieces requires interpretation and inference. The introduction of concepts like agony, negative emotional energy that can take physical form, and the Mimic, an AI that learns by copying behaviour, through the Fazbear Frights stories has significantly impacted how fans understand the games. These concepts provide explanations for phenomena that were previously mysterious, like how the shadow animatronics exist or how Glitchtrap could be both William Afton and something else. The mystery of the FNAF movie timeline and how it relates to the games is another source of fascination and confusion. The movie presents a different version of events with different character relationships and different outcomes. Mike Schmidt is not Michael Afton, but a different character with his own tragic backstory. The animatronics are possessed by different children. William Afton's identity and methods are revealed differently. The question is whether the movie is meant to be a separate continuity entirely, or whether it's showing us a different perspective on the same events. Some elements of the movie seem to contradict the games directly, while others seem to provide new information that could apply to both continuities. The movie's approach to the FNAF story raises questions about canon, adaptation, and how different versions of a story can coexist. The movie's revelation about the contents of the FNAF 4 box showing it contains items related to trauma and memory, provides one answer to that long-standing mystery, but only in the movie's continuity. Whether this answer applies to the games remains unclear. The movie becomes another piece of the FNAF puzzle, but one that might not fit with the other pieces in obvious ways. Let's explore the mystery of Glamrock Freddy's consciousness, and why he's different from the other animatronics in Security Breach. Unlike the other Glamrock animatronics, Freddy helps Gregory instead of hunting him. He seems to have genuine care and concern for the child, protecting him and working with him to escape the Pizzaplex. But why is Freddy different? One theory suggests that Glamrock Freddy contains the spirit of Michael Afton, or another benevolent soul. This would explain his protective behaviour and his desire to help children rather than harm them. If Michael's soul somehow ended up in Glamrock Freddy, it would make sense that he would try to protect Gregory, especially if Gregory is connected to the crying child. Another theory proposes that Glamrock Freddy's AI is simply more advanced or less corrupted than the other animatronics. While the others have been infected by Glitchtrap or the Mimic's influence, Freddy has somehow remained pure, retaining his original programming to entertain and protect children. His malfunction at the beginning of the game might have actually saved him from being corrupted like the others. A third theory suggests that Glamrock Freddy is special because he's connected to the original Freddy Fazbear in some way. Perhaps he contains parts from the original animatronic, or perhaps there's a spiritual connection between all the Freddys across the timeline. This would make Glamrock Freddy a link to the past, carrying forward the legacy of the original characters. The mystery of what's in Glamrock Freddy's stomach hatch, where Gregory hides, is also intriguing. Later in the game, we discover that Freddy's hatch contains the remains of another animatronic. Some fans believe this is the original Freddy, or parts of him, which would explain Glamrock Freddy's different behaviour. The presence of the old animatronic inside the new one creates a literal connection between past and present. Now let's examine the mystery of the Pizzaplex's construction and what lies beneath it. Security Breach reveals that the massive entertainment complex was built on top of the old Freddy Fazbear's pizza locations, with the ruins of previous restaurants existing in the basement levels. But how much of the old locations remains, and what secrets do they hold? The presence of the old animatronics in the basement, including what appears to be the original Freddy, Bonnie, Chica and Foxy, suggests that the past was literally buried rather than destroyed. The Pizzaplex is built on a foundation of tragedy and horror, with the old crimes hidden beneath layers of new construction and corporate rebranding. The Mimic's presence in the deepest levels of the Pizzaplex raises questions about how it got there and what it's been doing all this time. Has it been trapped in the basement since the old restaurants closed, or was it deliberately placed there by someone? The fact that it's still active and dangerous suggests that it's been waiting, learning, preparing for an opportunity to escape and cause more harm. The mystery of Burn Trap, the burned, damaged form of William Afton found in the basement, is particularly confusing. How did Afton survive the pizzeria simulator fire? How did he end up in the Pizzaplex basement? And is he actually alive, or is he being controlled by something else? The ambiguity of Burn Trap's nature and status makes it difficult to understand his role in Security Breach's story. Some fans believe that Burn Trap is not actually William Afton, but the Mimic wearing Afton's remains, mimicking him so perfectly that it's become him. This would explain how Afton survived the fire, and why he seems different in Security Breach, it would also connect to the larger theme of how evil can be copied and perpetuated even after the original source is destroyed. Let's explore the mystery of the various mini-games throughout the series and what they represent. FNAF's mini-games are presented in a simplified 8-bit style, showing scenes from the past or symbolic representations of events. But the question remains, are these mini-games literal memories, symbolic representations, or something else entirely? Some mini-games seem to show actual events from the past, like the missing children incident or Charlotte Emily's murder. These mini-games provide crucial lore information and help us understand the timeline of events. But other mini-games are more abstract and symbolic, like the Happiest Day or the various death mini-games in FNAF 3. The question of who is showing us these mini-games is itself a mystery. Are they memories from the animatronics' perspectives? Are they visions or communications from the spirits? Are they just a narrative device, a way for Scott Cawthon to convey information to players? The ambiguity of the minigame's nature makes them both valuable sources of information and frustrating puzzles to interpret. The Follow Me minigames in FNAF 3 show Shadow Freddy leading the animatronics to the safe room where William Afton dismantles them. But the perspective and purpose of these minigames is unclear. Are we seeing the animatronics' memories? Are we seeing Shadow Freddy's perspective? Or are we seeing something else entirely? The minigames provide crucial information about how the animatronics were destroyed, but they raise as many questions as they answer. The mystery of the various phone calls throughout the series and who recorded them is another intriguing element. We hear Phone Guy's messages in multiple games, but we also hear other voices. Phone Dude in FNAF 3, Hand Unit in Sister Location, and various other automated or recorded messages. The question is, who recorded these messages? When? And for what purpose? Phone Guy's messages in FNAF 1 seem to be recorded specifically for new security guards, providing training and information. But some of his messages contain information that seems oddly specific or suspiciously vague, as if he's trying to communicate something without saying it directly. His warnings about the animatronics' behaviour, his mentions of past incidents, and his eventual death all suggest that he knew more than he was saying. The messages in FNAF 2 are pre-recorded, as evidenced by the fact that Phone Guy dies in FNAF 1, but his voice appears in FNAF 2, which is set before FNAF 1. This raises questions about when he recorded these messages and what he knew at the time. Did he know about the murders? Did he know about William Afton's crimes? His cheerful, professional tone suggests either ignorance or deliberate denial of the horror happening around him. Hand Unit's messages in Sister Location are automated and somewhat glitchy, suggesting that the facility's systems are not entirely reliable. But Hand Unit also provides information that seems designed to manipulate the player, leading them towards specific actions and outcomes. The question is, who programmed Hand Unit, and what were they trying to achieve? If William Afton programmed the system, then Hand Unit's instructions might be part of a larger plan to lure people into the facility for sinister purposes. The mystery of the Foxy character, and why he's treated differently from the other animatronics, is another curious element. Foxy is out of order, hidden behind a curtain in Pirate Cove, and his behaviour is different from the other animatronics. He runs down the hallway rather than moving slowly, and his jump scare is more aggressive. But why is Foxy special? One theory suggests that Foxy is more damaged or more aggressive because the child possessing him died more violently or traumatically than the others. Another theory proposes that Foxy was William Afton's favourite or least favourite animatronic, leading to different treatment. A third theory suggests that Foxy's out-of-order status is related to the bite of 87, though this has never been confirmed. The Foxy character has also spawned numerous fan theories and memes, including the infamous Foxy is a good guy theory, that suggested Foxy was trying to help the player rather than harm them. While this theory has been largely debunked, it shows how fans have tried to find deeper meaning in every aspect of the games, even in details that might not have been intended to be significant. Let's examine the mystery of the various Easter eggs and rare screens throughout the series. FNAF is famous for its hidden content, rare events that occur with very low probability, secret screens that appear under specific conditions, and Easter eggs that require precise actions to trigger. But what do these Easter eggs mean, and are they canon? Golden Freddy's appearance in FNAF 1 is one of the most famous Easter eggs, a rare event where a poster changes to show Golden Freddy's face, and then Golden Freddy appears in your office, crashing the game when you look at him. This Easter egg established Golden Freddy as something special and different from the other animatronics, but it also raised questions about his nature and purpose. The various newspaper clippings and posters that appear in the games provide lore information, but they also raise questions about what's real and what's fabricated within the FNAF universe. Are these newspapers actual in-universe documents, or are they just a way for Scott Cawthon to convey information to players? The ambiguity of what's diegetic, existing within the game world, and what's non-diegetic, existing only for the player, creates interpretive challenges. The rare screens and death minigames in FNAF 3 provide crucial lore information about the missing children and the Happiest Day, but they're hidden behind complex requirements and rare random events. The fact that this important information is hidden suggests that it's meant to be discovered through community effort and collaboration, with players sharing their findings and piecing together the story collectively. The mystery of the Fredbear and Friends TV show mentioned in FNAF 4 is another intriguing detail. We see a child watching this show on TV, but we never learn much about it. Was this a real show in the FNAF universe, or just a commercial for the restaurant? The show's existence suggests that Fazbear Entertainment had a media presence beyond just the restaurants, but the extent of this presence remains unclear. Now let's delve into the mystery of Remnant and how it actually works. We know that Remnant is a supernatural substance created when someone dies with strong emotions, and that it can bind souls to physical objects, but the mechanics of how this works, how it can be extracted and manipulated, and what its limitations are remain somewhat mysterious. William Afton's experiments with Remnant are central to the FNAF story, but we never get a complete explanation of what he discovered or how he used this knowledge. We know he injected Remnant into the Funtime animatronics. We know he used the scooper to inject Remnant into Michael, and we know he somehow used Remnant to achieve his own form of immortality. But the specific processes and principles remain unclear. The relationship between Remnant and Agni is also mysterious. Are they the same thing, or are they different aspects of the same phenomenon? Remnant seems to be associated with souls and consciousness, while Agony seems to be pure emotional energy. But both can create supernatural effects. Both can bind to physical objects, and both seem to be connected to death and trauma. The question of whether Remnant can be destroyed is crucial to understanding FNAF's endings. Henry Emily's plan in Pizzeria Simulator involves using intense heat to destroy Remnant and free the spirits. But if Remnant can be destroyed by fire, why does William Afton survive multiple fires? Is his Remnant somehow different or more powerful? Or is he not actually surviving but being recreated or copied in some way? Let's explore the mystery of the various locations' layouts and how they connect to each other. Fans have created detailed maps of the FNAF locations based on camera positions and movement patterns, but many questions remain about how these locations relate to each other physically and temporally. The FNAF 1 location seems to be a rebuilt version of a previous location, using the same animatronics that were used in FNAF 2. But how much of the building is the same? Was it completely rebuilt or just renovated? The layout seems different, but some elements might be the same building repurposed. The relationship between Fredbear's family diner and the various Freddy Fazbear's pizza locations is also unclear. Were they in the same building at different times? Were they separate locations that existed simultaneously? The timeline and geography of the FNAF universe remains somewhat ambiguous, with different locations opening, closing and reopening in ways that are difficult to track. The Pizzaplex and security breach is explicitly built on top of the old locations, with the ruins existing in the basement. But how much of the old buildings remains? The presence of the old animatronics suggests that significant portions of the original locations are still intact, just buried and forgotten. This creates a literal layering of past and present, with new horror built on top of old tragedy. The mystery of the various animatronic designs and why they change between games is another interesting element. Each new game introduces new versions of the characters with different designs, different capabilities, and different behaviours. But why do these designs change, and what do the changes mean? The toy animatronics in FNAF 2 are explicitly described as new models with updated technology, including facial recognition software. But why were they created? Was it just to modernise the brand, or was there a more sinister purpose? The fact that they're scrapped after FNAF 2 suggests that something went wrong with them, but the exact nature of the problem is never fully explained. The Funtime animatronics in Sister Location are clearly designed by William Afton for specific purposes, with their sleek, advanced appearance hiding deadly mechanisms inside. But the question remains, did Afton design them from scratch, or did he modify existing designs? The Funtime versions of Freddy and Foxy seem related to the original characters, but the connection is never made explicit. The Glamrock animatronics in Security Breach represent another evolution of the characters, with a modern rock star aesthetic that reflects the Pizzaplex's entertainment focus. But are these entirely new animatronics, or do they contain parts or programming from the original characters? The discovery of old animatronic parts inside Glamrock Freddy suggests that the past is literally incorporated into the present, with old and new merged together. Let's examine the mystery of the bite victim's fate, and what "I will put you back together" actually means. This promise, delivered by the mysterious voice through the Fredbear plush, has been interpreted in countless ways, each with different implications for the FNAF story. The most literal interpretation is that the crying child's soul was placed into an animatronic, giving him a second chance at existence. This could mean he became Golden Freddy, or it could mean he was placed into a different animatronic entirely. The promise of being put back together would refer to his consciousness being reassembled and given a new form. A more metaphorical interpretation suggests that putting back together means giving the crying child's death meaning. ensuring that his story is remembered and that his suffering leads to something positive. In this reading, the promise is fulfilled through the Happiest Day minigame, where the crying child finally gets the birthday party he never had, surrounded by friends who understand his pain. Another interpretation proposes that the crying child was literally put back together as a robot, possibly Gregory in Security Breach. This would make the promise a literal reconstruction, with the child's consciousness transferred to a new artificial body. The promise would be fulfilled decades after it was made, with advanced technology finally making it possible to truly bring the child back. The ambiguity of this promise reflects FNAF's approach to its mysteries, providing enough information to theorize but never quite enough to be certain. The promise could mean all of these things, or none of them, or something entirely different that we haven't considered. This openness to interpretation is part of what makes FNAF's mysteries so engaging and enduring. The mystery of the various animatronic behaviours and why they hunt the player is another fundamental question. We know the animatronics are possessed by murdered children, but why do they attack security guards? Do they think every adult is William Afton? Are they simply aggressive because of their traumatic deaths? Or is there something else driving their behaviour? One theory suggests that the animatronics attack because they're trying to save the player by stuffing them into an animatronic suit. In their confused, childlike understanding, they think everyone should be like them, safe inside a suit, protected from harm. This interpretation makes their attacks tragic rather than malicious, the actions of confused children trying to help in the only way they know how. Another theory proposes that the animatronics are driven by remnant and agony, supernatural forces that compel them to attack anyone they encounter. In this interpretation, the children's souls are not fully in control. They're influenced or controlled by the negative energy that binds them to the animatronics. Their attacks are not conscious choices but compulsions they can't resist. A third theory suggests that the animatronics can distinguish between William Afton and other people, but they attack everyone anyway out of anger and a desire for revenge. They know the security guards aren't their killer, but they don't care. They're so consumed by rage and pain that they lash out at anyone associated with Fazbear Entertainment. The mystery of Phone Guy's true identity and his role in the story remains one of FNAF's most debated topics. Is he just a helpful employee, or is there more to his character? His extensive knowledge of the company's history, his familiarity with past incidents, and his eventual death all suggest that he's more important than he initially appears. Some fans believe Phone Guy is Henry Emily, the co-founder of Fazbear Entertainment. This would explain his knowledge and authority, and it would add tragic depth to his character. He's forced to continue working at the company where his daughter was murdered, training new employees while knowing the terrible truth. His cheerful tone would be a mask, a way of coping with unbearable grief and guilt. Others believe Phone Guy is just a long-time employee who's been with the company through multiple locations and incidents. He's not anyone special, just someone who's seen too much and knows too much, but continues working because he needs the job, or because he's in denial about the horror around him. His death in FNAF 1 would be the final tragedy of a man who stayed too long in a dangerous situation. A more sinister theory suggests that Phone Guy might have been complicit in William Afton's crimes, either knowingly or unknowingly. His emphasis on following company policy, his dismissal of safety concerns, and his knowledge of incidents that were covered up all suggest that he might have been part of the system that enabled the tragedies to occur. let's explore the mystery of the various endings across the series and what they tell us about the nature of choice and consequence in FNAF. Many games offer multiple endings based on player actions, but the significance of these choices and their impact on the larger story remains somewhat ambiguous. The good and bad endings in FNAF 3 depend on whether you complete the hidden mini-games and help the spirits find peace. This suggests that player actions can actually affect the fate of the murdered children, that we have the power to help them or leave them trapped. But later games complicate this by showing that the spirit's fate might not be as simple as a single ending suggests. Sister Location's multiple endings present different outcomes for Michael Afton, but it's unclear which ending is canon or if all endings are somehow true. The fake ending shows Michael being fired, while the real ending shows his transformation into a purple corpse. But both endings might be true in sequence. He's fired, and then he experiences the events of the real ending. Security Breach's multiple endings present radically different outcomes for Gregory, Vanessa and the Pizzaplex. Some endings are clearly better than others, with Gregory escaping and Vanessa being freed from Vanny's influence. But the existence of darker endings where Gregory becomes Vanny's apprentice, or where the Pizzaplex continues operating, suggests that the story could go in multiple directions. The mystery of what's canon and what's not extends beyond just the games to include the books, the movie and other media. Scott Cawthon has said that the books are meant to help understand the games but exist in a different continuity. The movie presents a different version of events with different character relationships. But how do all these different versions of the FNAF story relate to each other? Some fans believe in a multiverse theory, where all the different versions of FNAF exist in parallel universes. The games are one timeline, the books are another, the movie is a third, and they're all equally valid but separate. This would explain the contradictions and differences while allowing all versions to be true in their own way. Others believe in a core canon theory, where the games are the primary canon and everything else is supplementary or alternative. The books and movie can provide insights and ideas that apply to the games, but their specific events and characters are not part of the game timeline. This approach prioritizes the games while still allowing other media to contribute to our understanding. The mystery of the Afton family's complete story, and how all the pieces fit together, remains one of FNAF's central puzzles. We know William Afton is a serial killer who murdered children and experimented with Remnant. We know his daughter Elizabeth was killed by Circus Baby. We know his youngest son died in the bite of '83. We know his oldest son Michael spent his life trying to undo his father's evil. But many details remain unclear or ambiguous. What was William Afton's ultimate goal? Was he trying to achieve immortality for himself? Or was he trying to bring back his dead son? Did he love his family? Or did he see them as tools for his experiments? The games provide evidence for multiple interpretations, and William's true motivations remain somewhat mysterious. What happened to Mrs. Afton, the mother of the family? Her complete absence from the story is conspicuous and has spawned numerous theories. Did she die before the events of the games? Did she leave the family? Was she killed by William? The mystery of her fate adds another layer to the family's tragedy. How did Michael Afton survive being scooped and used as a skin suit by Ennard? The remnant injected by the scooper kept him animated, but the mechanics of how this works and why he didn't simply die remain unclear. His existence as a living corpse is one of FNAF's most disturbing and mysterious elements. Let's explore the mystery of the various cryptic messages and codes hidden throughout the series. FNAF is famous for its hidden content, requiring players to solve puzzles, decode messages, and piece together information from multiple sources. But what do these codes mean, and why are they hidden? The reversed and distorted audio files in various games contain hidden messages when played backward or at different speeds. These messages provide lore information but also raise questions about who recorded them and why they're hidden. Are they meant to be found by players, or are they diegetic elements that exist within the game world? The various number codes and ciphers in the games require complex decoding to reveal their messages. The famous 1983 code in FNAF4, the various number sequences in Sister Location, and the complex puzzles in the logbook all require significant effort to solve. The fact that this information is hidden suggests that it's meant to be discovered through community collaboration, with players working together to crack the codes. The hidden images and textures in the game files provide additional lore information, but also raise questions about what's meant to be discovered and what's just leftover development material. Some hidden content seems deliberately placed for players to find, while other content seems like it was never meant to be seen. The line between intentional Easter eggs and accidental discoveries is sometimes unclear. The mystery of the various retcons and changes Scott Cawthon has made to the story over time is another source of confusion and debate. Scott has admitted to changing certain elements of the story as the series evolved, but the extent and nature of these changes remains somewhat unclear. The most famous potential retcon involves the Bite of 87 and the Bite of 83. Some fans believe that FNAF4 was originally meant to show the Bite of 87, but Scott changed it to the Bite of 83 after realising it didn't fit the timeline. Others believe that two separate bites were always planned, and there was no retcon at all. Other potential retcons include the identity of the FNAF4 protagonist, the nature of the Funtime animatronics, and various timeline details that seem to contradict earlier information. The question is whether these are genuine retcons, changes to previously established facts, or clarifications, new information that changes our understanding without contradicting what came before. Scott's approach to retcons reflects the challenges of creating a long-running series with a complex, interconnected story. As new games are added and new information is revealed, some earlier details might need to be adjusted or reinterpreted. The question is how much flexibility we should allow in our interpretation of the story, and at what point changes become problematic for maintaining narrative coherence. The mystery of the various voice lines and their hidden meanings throughout the series provides another layer of intrigue. Many animatronics speak during their attacks or in cutscenes, and their words often contain clues about their identity, their motivations, or the larger story. But interpreting these voice lines requires careful attention to context and subtext. In Ultimate Custom Night, nearly every animatronic has unique voice lines that provide character insights and lore hints. Some lines are straightforward threats, but others are more cryptic. When Nightmare Fredbear says, "This time, there is more than an allusion to fear," what does he mean? Is he suggesting that the nightmares in FNAF4 were illusions, or is he saying that he's now more than just a nightmare? The puppet's line, "I don't hate you, but you need to stay out of my way," is particularly interesting because it suggests a complex emotional state. She doesn't hate William Afton, despite everything he's done, or is she speaking to someone else? The ambiguity of who she's addressing and what her feelings actually are adds depth to her character. Circus Baby's voice lines in Sister Location are especially revealing, as she guides the player through the facility while hiding her true nature. Her friendly, helpful tone masks her dangerous intentions, and listening to her lines with knowledge of who she really is adds layers of tragic irony. She's Elizabeth Afton, trying to connect with her brother, while also being compelled by her programming and the other souls within her. The mystery of the security breach endings and what they mean for the future of FNAF is particularly significant. With so many different possible outcomes, which path will the story actually follow? The best ending shows Gregory, Vanessa and Glamrock Freddy escaping together and watching the Pizzaplex burn, suggesting a clean break from the past. But other endings show darker possibilities. The Burn Trap ending, where Gregory confronts the burned remains of William Afton in the basement, suggests that Afton's story might not be over. The Princess Quest ending, where Vanessa is freed from Vanny's influence, provides hope for her redemption. The Vanny ending, where Gregory apparently becomes her apprentice, suggests that the cycle of corruption and evil might continue with a new generation. The question of which ending is canon affects how we understand the ongoing story. If the Burn Trap ending is canon, then William Afton, or something pretending to be him, is still a threat. If the Princess Quest ending is canon, then Vanessa's story has a hopeful resolution. If multiple endings are somehow all canon, then the story might branch into multiple timelines or possibilities. Let's explore the mystery of the Blob, the massive amalgamation of animatronic parts that appears in Security Breach's basement. This entity seems to be composed of parts from multiple animatronics across different eras, all fused together into one horrifying mass. But what is the Blob, and how did it come to exist? One theory suggests that the Blob is what remains of Molten Freddy after the pizzeria simulator fire. The fire didn't destroy the animatronics completely, but instead melted and fused them together, creating this new entity. The Blob would then be a collection of the missing children's souls, still trapped and still suffering, unable to find peace even after the fire that was supposed to free them. Another theory proposes that the Blob is a manifestation of agony and remnant, a physical form created by the accumulated negative energy of all the tragedies that occurred in the various Freddy Fazbear locations. In this interpretation, the Blob isn't possessed by specific individuals but is instead a collective entity formed from the suffering of many victims. The Blob's behaviour in Security Breach is also mysterious. It appears briefly, seems to attack Burn Trap, and then disappears. Is it trying to stop William Afton? Is it simply acting on instinct or compulsion? The fact that it targets Burn Trap specifically suggests some level of awareness or purpose, but its ultimate goals remain unclear. The mystery of the various phone calls and messages in Security Breach adds another layer to the game's story. Throughout the game, Vanessa leaves messages for other security staff, and there are various recorded announcements and communications, but some of these messages seem inconsistent or contradictory, raising questions about what's really happening in the Pizzaplex. Vanessa's messages sometimes sound helpful and concerned, while other times they sound threatening or suspicious. This could support the split personality theory, that Vanessa and Vanny are the same person with different personas. Or it could suggest that there are multiple people involved, with different individuals leaving different messages. The automated announcements in the Pizzaplex also contain interesting details about the facility's operations, its history, and its connection to Fazbear Entertainment's past. These announcements present a sanitized corporate version of events that contrasts sharply with the horror happening beneath the surface. The disconnect between the cheerful public face and the dark reality is a recurring theme in FNAF. Let's examine the mystery of the daycare attendant and its split personality between sun and moon. This animatronic transforms based on whether the lights are on or off, with sun being friendly and helpful while moon is aggressive and dangerous. But what causes this split and what does it represent? The most straightforward explanation is that the daycare attendant has two different modes programmed into it: a daytime mode for entertaining children and a nighttime mode for security. But the dramatic personality difference between sun and moon suggests something more than just different programming. Sun seems genuinely distressed about the possibility of the lights going out, suggesting awareness of what moon will do. Some fans theorize that the daycare attendant is possessed by two different souls, similar to Golden Freddy's dual possession. This would explain the extreme personality split and the apparent conflict between the two personas. Sun and moon would be two different individuals trapped in the same body fighting for control. Another interpretation suggests that the daycare attendant represents the duality of Fazbear Entertainment itself, friendly and entertaining on the surface, but dangerous and sinister underneath. Sun is the public face, the cheerful mascot that children love. Moon is the hidden reality, the threat that emerges when the lights go out and the truth is revealed. The mystery of DJ Music Man and the other large animatronics in Security Breach raises questions about scale and purpose. Why are some animatronics so much larger than others? DJ Music Man is enormous, towering over Gregory and filling entire rooms. The daycare attendant is also unusually tall. What's the purpose of these giant animatronics? From a practical standpoint, larger animatronics would be more impressive and entertaining, creating spectacle and drawing crowds. But from a lore perspective, the size differences might reflect different purposes or different levels of importance. The larger animatronics might be designed for different functions than the standard-sized ones. There's also the question of whether the large animatronics are possessed like the others, and if so, by whom? Do they contain the souls of victims, or are they simply machines following their programming? Their behaviour in Security Breach suggests they're being controlled by Glitchtrap or the Mimic, but whether they have any consciousness of their own remains unclear. The mystery of the various collectibles and their significance throughout the series provides another avenue for exploration. FNAF games often include collectible items, plushies, action figures, prizes that seem to have lore significance beyond just being gameplay objectives. In FNAF 4, the plushies in the crying child's room seem to represent the animatronics that haunt him, but they also disappear as the minigames progress, suggesting they're being packed away or removed. Are these just toys, or do they have some deeper significance? Some fans theorize that the plushies are connected to the crying child's possession of Golden Freddy, with the toys serving as anchors for his consciousness. In Security Breach, Gregory can collect various items including messages, CDs and upgrade parts. Some of these collectibles provide lore information, while others seem to be purely functional. But the presence of collectibles in a horror game raises questions about what's worth preserving, what's worth remembering, and what should be left behind. The mystery of Vanny's mask and its significance is another intriguing element. The mask is clearly important to her identity as Vanny, transforming her from Vanessa the security guard into Vanny the follower of Glitchtrap. But is the mask just a disguise, or does it have some deeper function? Some theories suggest that the mask is a physical interface for Glitchtrap's control, allowing him to directly influence Vanessa's actions when she wears it. In this interpretation, the mask is not just symbolic, but functional, a piece of technology that facilitates the corruption. Removing the mask would break the connection and free Vanessa from Glitchtrap's influence. Other theories propose that the mask is more psychological than technological. It allows Vanessa to separate her actions as Vanny from her identity as Vanessa, creating a psychological distance that makes it easier to do terrible things. The mask becomes a symbol of dissociation, of splitting oneself into different personas to cope with trauma or corruption. The mystery of the various minigame styles and what they represent is another subtle but interesting element. FNAF uses different visual styles for different minigames. Some are 8-bit, some are more detailed, some use specific colour palettes. These stylistic choices might have meaning beyond just aesthetic variety. The 8-bit mini-games in FNAF 3 that show the missing children incident and the Happiest day use a simplified, retro style that creates emotional distance from the horrific events being depicted. This style makes the content more palatable, while still conveying the necessary information. The simplification also leaves room for interpretation, allowing players to fill in details with their imagination. The more detailed minigames in FNAF 4 that show the crying child's story use a different style, that's still simplified but more expressive. The characters have more personality, the environments are more detailed, and the emotional content is more direct. This style creates more emotional engagement, making the crying child's tragedy feel more immediate and personal. The mystery of the Fazbear Entertainment company itself, and how it continues to operate despite multiple tragedies, is one of the most disturbing aspects of FNAF. How does a company survive after multiple child murders, multiple location closures, and multiple incidents of animatronics attacking people? What kind of corporate structure allows this to continue? The most cynical interpretation is that Fazbear Entertainment prioritizes profit over everything else, covering up incidents, settling lawsuits quietly, and continuing operations no matter the human cost. The company becomes a symbol of corporate evil, of how institutions can perpetuate harm while maintaining a friendly public face. But there's also the question of who actually runs Fazbear Entertainment. Is it still the original founders, or has it been sold to new owners? Are the people running the company aware of the supernatural elements, or do they think they're just dealing with mechanical failures and unfortunate accidents? The level of awareness and complicity within the company remains unclear. The mystery of the indie game developer mentioned in Help Wanted and Security Breach adds a meta-textual layer to FNAF's story. Within the FNAF universe, there's a game developer who created games based on the rumours about Fazbear Entertainment. This developer is implied to have discovered something they shouldn't have, leading to their disappearance or death. This meta-narrative creates a strange loop where FNAF games exist within the FNAF universe. The games we're playing are supposedly based on games that exist within the story, which are based on real events within that story. This layering of reality and fiction raises questions about what's real, what's fabricated, and how stories relate to truth. The indie developer's fate also serves as a warning about the dangers of digging too deep into Fazbear Entertainment's history. Those who seek the truth about what happened at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza tend to meet bad ends. The developer's disappearance suggests that there are forces, whether corporate or supernatural, that want the truth to stay hidden. As we drift deeper into the mysteries of Five Nights at Freddy's, We find ourselves in a space where questions outnumber answers, where every solution reveals new puzzles, where the act of seeking understanding becomes as important as the understanding itself. This is the essence of FNAF's appeal, and not just the horror of haunted animatronics, but the intellectual challenge of piecing together a story from fragments and clues. The beauty of FNAF's mysteries is that they invite participation. Scott Cawthon created a story that requires active engagement, that rewards careful observation and creative thinking, that treats players as collaborators in the storytelling process. The mysteries are not obstacles to overcome, but invitations to explore, to theorize, to imagine possibilities. Consider how the FNAF community has approached these mysteries over the years. Fans have created elaborate timelines, detailed character analyses, complex theories that connect seemingly unrelated details. They've decoded hidden messages, discovered Easter eggs, and pieced together lore from sources across multiple games and media. This collective effort has created a rich tapestry of interpretation and understanding that goes far beyond what any individual could achieve alone. The mysteries of FNAF also reflect deeper themes about knowledge, truth, and the nature of storytelling itself. In a world where information is often incomplete or contradictory, how do we construct meaning? How do we decide what's true when multiple interpretations are possible? How do we balance the desire for definitive answers with the value of ambiguity and open-endedness? These questions extend beyond FNAF to touch on fundamental aspects of how we understand stories and reality. The mysteries in FNAF are not just puzzles to be solved, but meditations on the nature of mystery itself, on what it means to seek answers and what it means to live with uncertainty. The enduring appeal of FNAF's mysteries lies in their perfect balance between solvability and ambiguity. There's enough information to theorize, to build coherent interpretations, to feel like we're making progress toward understanding. But there's also enough ambiguity to keep the mysteries alive, to allow for multiple valid interpretations, to ensure that the conversation never truly ends. This balance is what separates FNAF from stories that are either too obvious or too obscure. FNAF occupies a sweet spot where dedicated fans can make genuine discoveries and construct compelling theories, but where absolute certainty remains elusive. The mysteries serve a practical purpose in maintaining interest in the franchise over time, with each new game, book, or piece of media providing information that can confirm, contradict, or complicate existing theories. But perhaps the most important aspect of FNAF's mysteries is how they create a sense of shared experience and community. Fans bond over their theories, debate interpretations, collaborate on solving puzzles. The mysteries become a common language, a shared project that brings people together across geographic and cultural boundaries. The act of theorizing about FNAF becomes a form of creative expression in itself, with fans actively participating in creating meaning, constructing narratives, and imagining possibilities. As you continue to drift towards sleep, let these mysteries settle in your mind like gentle puzzles. Think about the locked box and what it might contain, about the two bites and their victims, about Golden Freddy and his dual possession, about all the questions that remain unanswered. Think about how these mysteries connect to larger themes, about family and tragedy, about guilt and redemption, about how evil persists and how it can be fought. Consider the mystery of consciousness and identity that runs through FNA. What makes someone who they are? If a soul is transferred to a new body, is it still the same person? If an AI learns to perfectly mimic someone, does it become them? These questions about identity and consciousness are central to FNAF's mysteries and reflect deeper philosophical concerns about the nature of self. Think about the mystery of evil and its origins. What made William Afton into a killer? Was he always evil, or did tragedy and obsession transform him? Can evil be destroyed, or does it simply change forms and continue? Consider the mystery of memory and trauma, how we remember painful events, how we process grief and loss. The Locked Box, the Happiest Day, the various minigames showing past tragedies all explore how memory works, how trauma affects us, and how we might find healing or closure. Think about the mystery of time and how the past affects the present. The pizzaplex built on top of old restaurants, the new animatronics containing parts of old ones, the way past crimes continue to haunt the present. All of these reflect how history persists, how the past is never truly gone, how what came before shapes what comes after. The mysteries of FNAF remind us that not everything needs to be fully understood to be appreciated. Sometimes the questions are more valuable than the answers, the journey more important than the destination. The act of wondering, of theorizing, of imagining possibilities, this is where the real magic happens. Think about how the mysteries have evolved over the years, how new information has changed our understanding, how theories have been confirmed or debunked. Consider the mysteries that remain unsolved, the questions that may never have definitive answers. The locked box might never be opened. The crying child's name might never be revealed. Some mysteries might be meant to stay mysterious, to remain open to interpretation, to continue sparking a debate and discussion for years to come. And perhaps that's okay. Perhaps the value of these mysteries lies not in their solutions, but in what they inspire. The creativity, the community, the conversations, the connections between people who share a love for this strange, complex, fascinating story. As sleep claims you now, let yourself relax into the uncertainty. The mysteries of Five Nights at Freddy's are like stars in the night sky. Beautiful, distant, numerous, each one a point of light in the darkness. You can't reach them all, can't fully understand them all, but you can appreciate their beauty, can trace patterns between them, can find meaning in their arrangement. The mysteries will still be there tomorrow, still waiting to be explored, still offering new insights and interpretations. Rest now, knowing that in the world of Five Nights at Freddy's, the mysteries are not obstacles, but opportunities, not frustrations, but fascinations. They're invitations to explore, to theorize, to imagine, and to wonder. Let that spirit of curiosity and creativity carry you gently into peaceful sleep, where dreams and mysteries blend together in perfect harmony.